Hey everybody, welcome back to part two of this AI in Action podcast with our dear friend, VP of Data Science at Vectra AI, Matt Silver. If you haven't seen part one with Matt, I suggest part one. They kind of play off of each other a little bit. And this one, I'll have Matt bring up some visuals for us because I think it'll help kind of walk through the conversation we're going to have. So part one of this podcast, we talked quite a bit about um, entities and detection. Kind of how do you use entity or AI as a force multiplier around entities and detection of threats? Kind of rooted in entities. Part two, and we teased it out a little bit at the end of that one, was like, hey, now let's go into the next phase of this, right? In terms of okay, what's that next way to leverage AI as a false multiplier? And as you can see on the screen, I'm going to talk more in depth about triage and prioritization. So I think, Matt, I think on the next slide is just you and my AI generated headshots
Oh yeah, we can
that
we
we
can show
threw in
those.
for
Yeah, sure.
fun in the
Yeah.
spirit of AI. But I'll let you kind of take it from there because I think it's a natural progression from the last time we talked, and I'll chime in with questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds good. So just really bringing up a view that we had last time when we talked, I mean, sort of through the first half of this, and now today we've returned to this view a little bit. And as a reminder, uh, when we were getting ready to meet with a lot of our customers at Hunt Club, what we wanted to do was really put ourselves in the shoes of SOC practitioners, think about the challenges that they face, and really focus on how we can make their lives day in and day out easier by reducing the volume of alerts that they have and giving them the highest quality alerts, right? So we pulled this sample from 800 some odd tenants in our SaaS platform over 30 days. Started with 45 million entities, so that's hosts and accounts. We talked about how we manage those entities and then filtered that down to about 4 million detections, behaviors that we surfaced. And really what we want to talk about today is taking that 4 million number across these 800 some odd customers and really getting that down to a much more manageable, a much smaller volume, right? And so uh, we're talking about triage and prioritization in these next couple of steps, right? And we're gonna take down that 4 million and 4 million detections down to roughly 2 million entities from those originally 45 million that have
Mhm.
detections on them, where we sort of triage and then aggregate back onto the entities, and then finally really just a little bit over 0.5% of those entities then are prioritized for investigation
Sure.
by our customers, right? So let's talk about first triage. And before I do, you know, years ago when we first released the product, we actually didn't have triage. We realized pretty quickly, okay, customers need sort of a final decision layer to tell us, about the environment, things that they know that we can't know. Don't tell us about this thing. I understand it might look like an attack behavior, but it's completely fine in my environment.
Hmm.
And that was a really important tool. Over time, it became really clear that we also needed to take some of the triage burden off of our customers as well. And the thing that we need to do there in order to really help is to be able to know what's malicious, right? We need to be able to look at the data, look at the things that we're seeing in the environment, and we need to be able to infer the things that are benign or really from a data perspective, the things that are really common
Hmm.
or occurring frequently, and drive a wedge between those things and what's malicious. So in order to do that, the challenge that we brought to our data scientists and our security researchers was, what do analysts think, right? How can we model the way analysts conceive of alerts in their environments? How can we sort of ask the same questions that analysts ask when they're faced with an alert? Does this host do this a lot? Are a lot of users in the environment behaving this way? Is this common in this environment, right? Questions like that.
Yeah.
One of the really interesting things, this was a few years ago, but it really relates to, I think, what a lot of people are talking about these days with AI assistants versus agents. What we realized pretty quickly is that beyond just asking these questions and rendering some sort of opinion, we needed to actually take action and do something about it, right? So rather than just recommending a triage rule, our system is triaging autonomously without any action needed from the customer. And I think this is something that we're really excited about leaning into much more heavily this year. And the first thing that we're going to do, it's pretty straightforward. The first when we rolled out AI triage, it was rolled out to pockets of the network coverage that we have and our identity and SaaS portfolios. Uh, Actually, since Hunt Club has occurred, we've already rolled this out to Azure Control Plane and AWS Control Plane portfolios. So that is fully running. And then already highlighted here on this slide, there's one remaining pocket of our network portfolio that we are rolling this out to. Once we're done with this, that's going to be a huge asset for our customers and really help to narrow that funnel.
Yeah.
But on top of this, there's sort of a lot of additional value that's on the table, really powerful opportunities that we're looking at, and I was excited to talk to some of our customers as well about what things here would really make a difference. So things that the data scientists are looking at, bringing in a lot more information about entities and the behaviors that we see on them. Uh, we've just seen so much that we can do if we're widening the scope in terms of what our systems are looking at from a triage perspective. The other thing that I think we've been pretty excited about is the opportunity of looking at multiple behaviors and triaging across them. So far, our agents have really been focused on individual behaviors and seeing whether those behaviors are common in the environment or common for an entity. What we want to do is widen that so we can look at a set of behaviors on a
Hmm.
given entity and sort of profile that entity and say, based on all these different behaviors, this thing looks like a vulnerability scanner. So we're going to deal with all that as a chunk. That's
Yeah.
something that we think is a really big opportunity. And then sort of going back actually to that assistant sort of mode, there are these edge cases where we don't know if a tool is actually used in the customer environment, right? So what we'd like to do is actually come back to customers and say, we've handled a bunch of this stuff. It looks like you might be using Tanium. Are you? If so, we're going to go and take this action for you, where we can sort of go and pause and get that kind of feedback. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities that we're pretty excited about in the triage space. Really can drill down on a lot of that noise.
Awesome.
The next piece, then, right? So we take a step back, look at the funnel here. We've pulled our 4 million detections across these 45 million entities back into sort of reaggregated them onto entities, and we've got this sort of 5% of entities that have performed actions, behaviors that we think are suspicious. We think we've taken note of. So we've got this group of 2 million now. This final reduction is a really powerful reminder of how challenging this job is, right, for SOC practitioners. So over a 30-day period, we've gotten this pulled down out of those 44 million entities. We're prioritizing just 13,000 hosts and accounts, right? So this is of all entities, this is 0.03% of entities that are prioritized. And this is, really at the heart of what we're trying to do. And even at this exceedingly small fraction, we think we even need to do better, right?
Yeah.
Even 0.03%, we still want to drill down on this and get SOC practitioners the smallest, cleanest signal possible.
Yeah.
But how are we getting this? How are we getting this reduction, right? How are we drilling this down into such a small fraction of the entities we're monitoring? This system we rolled out a couple of years ago and have been augmenting steadily since. So the first thing we do, as I mentioned, was we're aggregating all these behaviors onto a host. So here we have a host that's performed a bunch of different attack behaviors, really across the kill chain, command and control, some reconnaissance, lateral movement, exfiltration, you name it. Um, First thing what we want to do is map this into MITRE techniques so that we have basically a portable representation of the set of behaviors we've seen. And this is really important. It allows us to uh, generalize across our own portfolios, consider signals from others as well. We think this is a really good way of taking what we've seen and sort of bundling it up and moving forward in a more generic way. And on top of this, what we want to do now is start to understand um, what somebody who's exhibiting these behaviors is actually trying to accomplish. So we've got a set of behavioral profiles that our security researchers and our analysts put together, just trying to capture the different types of ways, like the sort of archetypes, attack archetypes that you might see in an environment. And each one of these is associated with behaviors, either strongly or weakly or not at all. Now, this gives us a space of attack behaviors, and then we can project a given set of behaviors into that space and then find the most similar behavioral profile. And then this allows us to, it's sort of like moving toward intent a little bit, where we can see these behaviors. What do these behaviors look like? This looks like an external adversary, or on the flip side, it might look like sort of IT services, IT discovery, something like that.
Right.
This is a super helpful framework for us then to sort of proceed forward. Now, what we want to do is back out, look at all those original signals, pull in a whole bunch of other information, right? So we're looking at attributes of the individual behaviors we detected. We've got a bunch of little models tucked in here. We're looking at timing information. So we're looking at the rapidity of progression through the kill chain. We're gathering as much information as we can about the individual attributes, and this we pull this all into a sort of a primitive called an attack rating. But the important thing to note is for a given set of behaviors with a given rate of progression, this attack rating looks the same everywhere. We also want to tailor our prioritization system to individual customer environments. And so to do that, we need to also gather information that our customers have told us about their environments, how they work, the entities in those environments, et cetera. And so we're looking at role information. We're looking at the account and host groups that customers have created. We're also bringing in information that we've learned, like we've sort of estimated privilege levels of entities based on what we've observed passively in the environment. So now we've got information about the entities, we've got information about the attack behaviors, we've got all this information gathered together. We're characterizing the behaviors, looking toward intent, we're capturing timing, contextualizing based on what we've learned. This is a lot of information.
Yeah.
We've got to boil this down now to just like one number, right? So
Yeah.
we can rank them all so that the SOC analyst knows where to look first. So in order to do this, we've built a constraint optimization model that really pulls in a whole bunch of different constraints from analysts who work at Vectra, analysts that we interviewed, um, security researchers. We're getting all this kind of information. Like I would investigate an external adversary type behavior before anything else, or I would observe a high privilege entity before anything that's doing recon, regardless of privilege. I don't, whatever the sentiments that we sort of gathered together, we codified all of those sentiments as constraints in our model. And now what the model does is it takes all these pieces of information and it tries to produce a score that's well aligned with the constraints that our analysts who helped us build this model provided. So the result of this model building effort is that when we see this set of behaviors, we pump them into a system of equations. That system of equations is solved by our constraint solver, and what we get out is a single privilege score that allows us to rank all of the prioritized entities in the environment, so we can direct analysts to the most urgent threats in their environment, right? And ultimately, then we're only taking the top most urgent from this big ranked list and prioritizing them as alerts for our customers. And this is really how we're sort of getting down to a really small volume of entities prioritized. So if we look, back at that funnel, um, across all 800 tenants, um, you know, this 0.03% of entities prioritized, this is a 99.97% reduction, right? And again, pushing this even further is on the docket for this year. Even at this level, one of the things I really wanted to relate with to our customers at Hunt Club is, they're glad to see the platform performing really well at scale, but SOC practitioners, CISOs, they care first and foremost about their own environments. So we also, as we were pulling these numbers, wanted to capture what the average customer experience is as well. And what we saw when we pulled the numbers and we looked at this is most customers, the majority of customers see fewer than 5 alerts a month, right? And this is really the key takeaway. This is again a number that we want to continue to drive down even further. But this is what it's all about, right? And if we can keep these alerts down even lower, less than one a week, even lower than that, that's what it's going to take to really empower SOC practitioners to protect their environments and protect themselves, protect employees and their companies.
Now, I want to let me read back. This is awesome, man. I want to read back kind of how my brain works and trying to simplify this for myself. If I go back to the scoring model, I've often thought about it as, um, the attack rating is kind of a, how likely is this malicious? Right? That's how I think about attack rating. Like we've looked at all these behaviors, we've looked at, all these different detections, assigned it to a profile, looked at velocity in which it's moving. Okay, how likely is this that it's a malicious actor?
Yeah,
The second question we asked, like we're asking of the data in is, okay, how much should I care? Like entity importance to me is like, how much should I care?
yeah,
Right? As a person, as a human who's trying to like just fight attackers day in, day out and not drown in false positives and waste my time. Now tell me, how much should I care? The combination of those two, which is an urgency score, is okay, where should I focus my attention now? Like what deserves my time and talent today? Right.
yeah.
And that would be the urgency. Is that a simple way of like thinking about those kind of three parts of the score?
Absolutely, right. So I mean, we're trying to sort of balance against different types of cases, right? So the CEO's laptop is something that maybe you want to protect with any sorts of behaviors, right?
Yeah.
On a high importance asset like that, you want to go and investigate pretty quickly. Whereas in some distant enclave of your environment, maybe you see some sort of low confidence or low threat recon behaviors, um, maybe it's okay to allow that to progress.
Yeah.
Maybe keep an eye on it. But off in the edge of the network, if you start to see some real progression, real rapidity, real some serious behaviors, maybe you start to turn your attention there instead. So it's sort of looking at the threat, how it's expanding, how serious it is, and then trying to take into account what are the areas of my environment that I really care about
Yeah.
and that I need to look at first.
So there's some element of flexibility in the modeling. Like they can go and tweak, risk tolerances go up and down depending on, you know, heck, you could be in the middle of a merger and acquisition. So your risk tolerance is going to be, lower, much, much lower. And it's especially with people with privileged access. So I'm assuming, the autonomy, the customer has some ability to go in and toggle here certain things here and there as their tolerance ebbs and flows. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So the uh, one of the best ways to control this is with something I mentioned really briefly, host and account groups. So a lot of our customers will use this where you can create a group, you can give it a name, and you can add hosts and accounts into it, and you are able to attach an importance level to that group,
Yeah.
right? And if you put a high importance on there, you are really putting your thumb on the scales on this system, right? We take that information into account really seriously. So if we see threats on a high importance host or account, we're putting that up on the screen pretty quickly. That's a great way for customers even sort of dynamically, right, to update that if there's an area that they're concerned about, change the importance of that group, and it will really change what is surfacing.
Now I'll hit you with one more, Matt, because this is
Yeah,
what's
sure.
going in through my head. I'm putting myself in the shoes of maybe our listener or security practitioner or what have you. Most customers see fewer than 5 alerts a month. Um, but we know in some cases, in many cases, you know, visibility to everything that's going on in my environment is important to me, right? If it's only 5 alerts a month, like what else are you doing? And I wanted to like you to clarify. It's not like that's the only thing we surface inside the
Yeah,
platform.
yeah, yeah.
This is about alert fatigue, fidelity of the signal, aggregation of individual detections around an entity, doing the correlation and prioritization to deliver alerts, like critical alerts with a high degree of accuracy. There's a whole, this is my setup for maybe the next time I talk to you or someone from the product team. I'm like, okay, beyond the alerting and saving helping the analyst be more efficient and effective and maximize their time and talent, what else are you guys doing with the data you have and then your AI modeling and whatnot? So, just a just a comment on that one, Matt.
Yeah, that's a great point. I appreciate you bringing it up, right? I mean, these five alerts are, um, I mean, the detections are visible in our products, right? And so, you can sort of sift through all the various attack behaviors.
Yeah,
That's all visible. And you can also, see the various entities in the product as well, sort of use investigations, go threat hunting, things like that. And then, of course, all entities that have detections on them do get an urgency score,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so you can scroll
You
through
can,
and
yeah.
yeah,
It's just
exactly.
what we alert on hits a certain threshold, and then it's like, hey guys, you got to look at this, right?
Yeah,
It's more of
exactly.
that proactive, hey, heads up. Anyway,
That's right. So we're
awesome,
saying basically five prioritized entities a month sort of crest over that line where
yeah,
we're waving a flag and saying you need to look at this,
right,
and then the rest of it is if you got more time or you're searching for specific threats, right? You can delve in and we're
yeah,
surfacing as much of that as
yeah,
we can.
awesome, awesome. As always, Matt, always learn something when I talk to you. I know we talk quite a bit, and I always get to hear about this stuff and want to bring you on the podcast more and more.
Yeah,
Everyone,
always
please
a pleasure.
comment, like, give us feedback, suggest topics around AI that you'd love Matt and I to kind of talk about, bring in other data scientists and kind of security researchers into the topics. Check out the other shows. There's always kind of fresh content going out there in Cyber Minds, threat briefings. We're usually issuing a threat briefing at least once a week, maybe once every other week. And then as always, there's always cool product stuff happening from the product briefings show. So yeah, everybody listening, thank you. Thanks again for tuning in. Matt, thank you
Thank
once
you.
again. Truly
Of course.
appreciate it. And until next time, thanks everybody.
Thanks. Take care.